morning, everyone. It is a lovely, well, not lovely. It's a little overcast, but not bad. 75 degrees today here in Gettysburg. 9:56 anti-meridian. Going to do a little drive before I head to the studio, as always. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, this drive and all of them are brought to you by our patrons over at patreon.com/addressinggettysburg. And, of course, super likes. Buy a tank of gas and help heal the wounds of the past. That's right. That's the lofty goal that we're going to say we do. And, of course, can't possibly do, which means you'll have to just keep giving money. That's how those things work. You know, these are the tricks of the trade. Of course, we're not really saying that. We're not going to heal the wounds of anything, because that's not our job. Our job is to just talk about things. So, excuse me. We're heading on Chambersburg Street, west on Chambersburg Street. Chambersburg Street is named for the town of Chambersburg, which, of course, if you stayed on this road, would take you to, well, it would be where you end up, is the town of Chambersburg. In the olden days, people weren't too original with names. You know, I mean, they didn't have GPS, so, I mean, that's a good start, right? You name the road after where it'll take you. Then you don't have to ask for directions. Is it just me, or is it annoying when people ask you for directions in this day and age of GPS? And I'll never understand it. Like, when I used to work with the bike tours, we were in the bus lot at the visitor center. That was our location. All day long, every day. People pulling up, coming up to the window. We're looking for McMillan Woods Campground. We're looking for this. We're looking for that. And, you know, like, the GPS took us here. Okay, what'd you put in the GPS? Gettysburg National Military Park. Okay, well, this is the visitor center. Well, we're looking for McMillan Woods. Well, why didn't you put McMillan Woods in the GPS? And now I have to waste my time giving you directions for what a simple search in the GPS could have done. Now you could say, but Matt, they were probably old. Okay, I wouldn't call them old. They were older than I, but they were not by any means old. Okay, they weren't like 80, 90 years old. That's a different story. They have their smartphones. They use the GPS to get to the wrong place. I don't know. It was last weekend, my family was down, and people were like, Matt, how do I get to blah, blah, blah from here? And I'm like, put it in your GPS. So I gotta deal with this all week long, every day. Like, you're gonna come here and ask me this? Come on. What are we waiting for? What is the holdup here? Good morning, Russell. Good morning, Jennifer. Good morning, Rich. Yeah, Rich says, just listen to part 2. Really good. Thank you. I was just starting to listen to it. I probably got 15 minutes into it. And I forgot what a goofy mood we were in that day. We had well, that had to be winter. Well, no, I hear birds chirping, so it was probably April or May. So by that point, I don't remember much of anything. Or I should say, thinking back to that recording session itself. Speaking of recording session, at 1 o'clock-ish, at probably 1:30, we're going to do a live stream of a recording session for Patreon. This is kind of like the fall preview, even though it's not fall yet. The thing that we're going to do for, you know, a new feature on Patreon. Eventually, again, I haven't had time to sit and like work out the kinks here, but my goal would be to make the colonel level on YouTube membership and the first lieutenant level on whatchamacallit, what do you call it, Patreon, have this same perk. But I had trouble on one of the shows doing a simulcast, and I just have to figure out why. Of course, I didn't take the time to figure out why, because I just decided to do it real quick before the show actually was done. And when you, what's the old saying? Haste makes waste. So I should have looked into it sooner, but it was an afterthought, and I was like, oh, let me see if I can do this now. And I couldn't, and I wasn't going to waste everybody's time by trying to figure things out. So I will. But anyway, my point is, right now, on the first lieutenant level on Patreon, you're going to have that perk where it'll be an exclusive thing for you, where you get to watch the recording sessions live as they happen. Why is that a perk? Why is that something you might want? Well, the general public, including other patrons, might not hear that episode for months, 6 months, maybe a year. We don't do them hand to mouth. So in other words, I don't record one this week and put it out on Monday. Sometimes we will, like if it's a timely, or if it's a matter of time, I guess I should say. Like for example, someone comes on to promote a new book they have coming out, and we're recording it in August and the book comes out in September. As a favor to that person for coming on, we'll do it. But for the most part, generic episodes will kind of go into the pipeline, and I pick them out whenever I need an episode, and I put them up. It's pretty simple. If I were more organized, I would have a schedule for the whole year, but I'm not more organized. And until someone gets me organized, and that could be anybody, Jesus even, if he wanted to, put a spell on me or something and make me a more organized person, that'd be great. But anyway, that's just the way it's gonna be. But you're gonna get them anyway. Point is, you get to watch them as they're being recorded, and because I want, Addressing Gettysburg is already a community, but I don't know if it's reflected in all of the shows. And it's reflected in AG Today because people call in, people comment, we joke around, we laugh, have fun. But as far as the history shows go, it really gets out of listening to Ask You Guys that this is a growing community of people that interact with each other and see each other on a somewhat regular basis throughout the year. So I wanted to have more of that feel, and that would require participation from the audience. And what better way to do it than to broadcast it live and let them interact. Now on Patreon episodes, those, I'm not saying I won't go to your comments and include them. I'm not saying I definitely will either. I'm going to say at the host's discretion. And the reason I say that is because Patreon episodes are more focused. So we'll have an author on, or we'll talk about a very specific aspect of the campaign or the battle or the Civil War. And the crux of those shows is me interacting with the guest and having an intimate conversation, if you will, for lack of a better word, about the subject. And depending on what the subject is and the personality of the guest, it might be a little more laid back and a little more loose. And if there's other people in the studio, we'll include them in it. Again, at the host's discretion. And I think that's worked for me so far. I think that's what a lot of people, when they send in complimentary emails, they say that they like the way I interact with people. So I don't want to ruin that too much. And I shouldn't say ruin it, but I don't want to stray from that too much by making it a free-for-all. However, when I see a comment that is good, I'll either weave it into my own questions. So basically you're kind of like my writer, and I'm going to steal it and get the credit for it. Like Jackie the Jokeman or something. Well, he got credit. But so I might not do it, because sometimes it stops the show to say, oh, that's a great answer. George says, what if the thoughtful, and then I gotta read through your typos and read through the lack of punctuation and try to figure out what you're saying, and it just slows the pace down. It's easier if I just let that kind of hang, and while the guest is giving an answer, I'm sitting there trying to decode it, and then I'll just work it in once I figure out what it is you're trying to say. Now, with Ask a Guides, that's a different story. We don't record those as often because we only need, 24 of those a month. I'm sorry, a year. I do 2 a month. And so we don't record Ask a Guides on such a schedule as we do Patreon episodes, because Patreon, we put out 4 a month. And 4 times 12 is a number that I don't believe scholars have yet figured out. And so it's a lot, though. It's a lot. Yeah. Now, Ask a Guides, on the other hand, we will incorporate phone calls only. We'll set up the phone lines. If you have a question while you're watching, you got to call in, because I really want it to be you guys participating. And I want you to have a conversation with the guide. Because otherwise, if you were to, try to have a conversation with a guide, let's say on the battlefield, let's say you ran into Charlie Fennell on the battlefield, right? And Charlie's already given a tour. Well, you're not going to interrupt that tour because you're polite. So you're not going to interrupt. You might interrupt it enough to say hi to Charlie when they're, walking back to the car or something. But you're not going to interrupt it and say, hey, Charlie, while I got you, I got a question about Culp's Hill. That's just rude. You're not going to do that. You're not paying for that tour. That other person is. So this is a way for you to kind of steal a little time with our guides when you talk to them on the show. But we want you to have a question. So basically it'll go like this. When we're going to record and Ask a Guide and we put out a call for questions, all the patrons get that call and all the patrons can submit it in writing. However, you as the first lieutenant will be able to say, nah, I don't need to write it down. I'll just call in when they record. Now, you run the risk, though. We'll try to let you know the time, the date and time that we're going to record with whoever, so that you can, mark it on your schedule. And then you could also use your discretion and say, well, I'm not going to be able to tune into that, so I will submit my question in writing. So we will do that for you as well. And I think, and I have to say to the people who have been first lieutenants since I launched that level, I have to thank you very much for your patience and understanding with it. I think I bit off a little more than I could chew there, or at least the manner in which we produce the show in the shed with our limited internet and our limited electricity and my limited time, because I was also working Gettysburg. It was not as easy as I thought it would be to churn out video versions of new episodes every week. Video editing, you've heard me say this a lot, is its own beast, and I'm very particular with that, especially with video. Well, both video and sound. So video editing to me takes forever and a day. I've been working on a video over the last 2 months of the reenactment, not the Daniel 80 one, the one before it. Excuse me for forgetting the name. I'm very bad with abbreviations and initials and all those things. Not abbreviation, initials. I can never remember them in the right order or any order at all. Anyway, and part of the reason is because well, first of all, there's a lot of footage to go through, and that takes a while because you got to actually watch it, and then you got to cull it. You got to pick what you want to use. Cull isn't the word. Cultivate? That's not the word either. Harvest. That's the word I was looking for. And then you got to put it together. And then you got to make it flow. You got to make it work. You got to pick music to put behind it. You got to figure out, well, when do I want to, cut this interview because it's too long and meandering or whatever. There's a lot that goes into it. And so for me to have done that on a weekly basis, in addition to the audio and all the other stuff that I have to do, I just didn't have the time. So I appreciate when I would put out messages to the first lieutenants, and I would say, listen, I am sorry that I'm not able to keep up like I thought I would. Thank you for sticking around, but video dump coming in a month or something like that. And then people would respond, I don't care about that, I just want to support you, and I can afford to do this, so I do it. So you guys are really fantastic. But I still feel guilty, and I still feel bad, and I still feel like you're owed something. And I've figured out a way to give you what you're paying for. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for sticking around. And in advance, I thank those of you listening to this who are like, you know what? I'm going to become a first lieutenant. And so forth. All right, let's see. What's everybody saying? Dogface says, morning, everyone. Patrick says, well, happy Monday to all. Eric says, good morning. Six Questions says, the state tree of Pennsylvania, the traffic cone. Good morning from Chicago. Wishing I was in Gettysburg. Hey, Ron, how are you? Marie says, good morning. What did I miss? Not much yet. Connor says, good morning. And Michael says, what did he say? Maybe you can call in advance. Yes, actually, Michael, great point. If you listen to AG today, you'll hear that we played a voicemail from an Australian listener. He called in and left that back in July, and I didn't see it until last week. And I was like, oh, awesome, we have a voicemail. And that's something I keep forgetting. You can certainly leave a voicemail on our studio line, which is 717-420-1978. You can leave it about whatever. Just remember that when you leave that voicemail, I can play it on the air. So careful what you say, because it'll go out. But yes, you can also leave a voicemail if you're going to not be able to, that's grammatically awkward. If you're not going to be able to tune in for that's still, I don't like that. Let me say, you can leave a voicemail if you won't be able to tune in for Patreon, for the live broadcast, of a Patreon episode. Not of a Patreon episode, of an Ask a Guide. Absolutely. Call in, leave a voicemail. I'll check to see before we record shows if we have any voicemails. That's a great point there, Michael. Thank you for bringing that up. Kevin says, you did a great job from the solar shed with your shows. I know it was a struggle. Thank you, Kevin. It's funny. There was a period of time where everything worked fine. And then it's weird. Like, one thing starts going and then all the rest go. But they're not related to each other. Like, the things that would go had nothing to do with the other. But it's just, it was really tough. See, because our internet there, for a while, we were using a hotspot from Verizon because there was no direct line to a shed in a parking lot, right? So we had to use hotspots. But the visitor center is built in a bowl. So cell service down there is sketchy at best. And also Verizon, at the time that we had the hotspot, they did this thing where once you hit 50 gigabytes, you're throttled down. And when we had days when there were like 20 buses in the lot and they all have Wi-Fi and they're all drawn off of the Foundation's internet, even though we had our own channel on the Foundation's internet, it still just drained the resources in that area. And so, like, to do a simple task on a computer, like, I'm talking like just sending an email, took forever for everything to load. It was like the old days of dial-up, and it was very frustrating. And so, one of the reasons, but a very low reason, because the main reason we did AG Today in the evenings was because people worked during the day, but another reason was because by then all the buses would be gone and the internet would work again. And it was almost like clockwork. Like, once the buses left, you give it a little time, maybe restart the router or whatever, and then poof, everything works fine. But yeah, it was a struggle. It's hard when your work depends on technology and you're doing things basically on the cheap, that makes it tough. But now we are in town. I think we only had one interruption during a live show from our new studio, and that just happens with the internet sometimes. Just anywhere you go in town, there's times where like everybody's internet is really sluggish for like 5 minutes, or not even 5 minutes, maybe a minute, whatever. Yeah. Thank you though for saying that, Kevin. Good morning, Hayden. Ricky Bird says, enjoyed the mead bust in New Jersey. Yes, I love that little connection. And let me tell you, when we went back to the parking lot, I wanted to go stand out on the salt water a little bit longer, so we went back, and on the way back in, we saw somebody who worked there. Now, they'd closed the visitor center, and this person was on their way out. But I stopped them, and, just talking a little bit about, I asked them if they would, I was going to do another live video, and I asked them if they would want to come back on. They were shy. So, but she talked to me, and when I said that I live in Gettysburg, she was like, oh! It was like you're a celebrity or something, which is pretty cool. Ask a Guido. Oh, next time I go back to Jersey, that's what I'm going to do. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Ask a Gettysburg Guido. And today I got Carmine. Carmine, we have a question in from 6 Questions Lens. And his first question is, Carmine, I'd like to know, what's the matter with you? Carmine, what do you say to 6 Questions?
Well, that's a great question. I come back today and I say, what's the matter with you? Who do you think you are? Ask me that question.
Chad and I really enjoyed the last AG show. Which one are you talking about? The last AG today, or the one that came out this morning? Which are you talking about, Marie? Jennifer says, it was really nice that we got to see Cindy this weekend on your Mead Bus vlog. Yes, I told Cindy, I'm just going to make you a part of things. If you're going to be here, you're going to expect to be pulled in. She also sat in when we talked about the cat piss house on AG today. So that was nice. Marie, thank you, but I'm not. Outside of here, I'm not. I'm here, and I always get stopped by somebody, and I love it. In fact, last night, after I did some grocery shopping, I was like, I don't feel like cooking dinner. So I stopped at the Farnsworth house, had a BLT wrap, and Tim Smith came over, sat down with me, and we had a little conversation. I might lose you when I go into the Enchanted Forest here, so stick around. Anyway, Tim came over and we were talking. Hold on, I gotta take a drink. And while we were talking, he got a text message, and he showed me the text message, and it was from our buddy Eric Dorr, and it said, hey, we're in the Farnsworth house. So when Tim and I were done, Tim had to go check on something. I walked into the Sweeney's Tavern, and there was... So Tim and I sat and talked a little bit. We're going to go down Crawford Ave here. Freshly paved, ladies and gentlemen. It was closed for a few days, and people were up in arms. They won't even let us walk down there. Okay, 6,000 more acres. Oh, look at this. We got the nature photographers out. They are definitely looking for beeve. Hello. I don't see what they're seeing. Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. I'm sorry, talking to Boot. Oh, Tim. Yeah, so because we're all so busy during the summer, but I especially didn't get to see Tim a lot this year because he's been so busy with the museum. However, he is scheduled to be on a That's What She Said episode. And that, I think, might be this coming Sunday that we're going to record that. We're not going to do those live yet because the girls get, self-conscious. So I want them to gain their confidence as the episodes come out and they get the feedback. I want them to be able to gain their confidence from that and not have to work. I want each one of them to be a spotlight on, and we have to do a spotlight on you. And I was thinking of having you in the studio for that, but I was like, you know what? You would be more interesting in front of an audience, and only that, you would be, I think it would be more fitting to do it at the Adams County Historical Society again. And so I just need to talk to them and schedule it. But the idea would be, now why would they let us in here if they're still paving? That's silliness. That's silly. They should close it off. I don't know why. Why would they leave it closed and then... Okay, whatever. So Tim said that he would be happy to do one of those. I also asked Tim, I said, Tim, are you still going to do Farnsworth House lectures over the winter, or are you just going to do them at the Historical Society now? And he said, no, I'm still going to do them here. I'm going to do it for the family and for the restaurant, and I said, good, because we like that. We like the intimacy of the tavern. We like coming in and seeing everybody. I think it would be, you got to keep it going. So he says he's going to keep that going. Can I just tell you? Hold on, I'm going to do a little free plug here. Spindrift sparkling water. Folks, if you see it in your supermarket, get a hold of it. It is so good. If you like a little lemon in your water, but you don't feel like carrying around lemons all the time, this is the next best thing. They actually put like real fruit juice. They have all different flavors, but they use real fruit juice. They don't add any sweetener whatsoever. No sugar, no corn syrup, no aspartame or anything. It's just whatever. So lemon's gonna taste like lemon, lime tastes like lime, raspberries, schnozberries. Who's ever heard of a schnozberry? You all know. And yeah, so that will be delightful. It'll be like a party in your mouth and everybody's invited. So I highly recommend it if you can get it. It's not everywhere. You can't find it everywhere. Although I'm seeing it more and more in different places now. Let's see. Marie, the Saberhood one. Okay, so that was the last AG today. When we talk about things that are modern and we don't really talk about history and we're just kind of goofing around, we're talking about things that are news in the show world, in the show's universe and all that stuff. That's AG today. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, I think every time I travel somewhere and I stumble upon a Gettysburg connection, I will do one of those videos. I knew about that Gettysburg connection before, but I don't think I did a video. I might have, not sure. Did you to the Barnegat Lighthouse? Is that where you saw the mead bus? Yes, I went to the Barnegat Lighthouse. Cindy had not been to Long Beach Island before, so I took her up to the lighthouse. Went and got lunch at a deli. And then, just kind of lollygagged around. We're not really beach people. It's weird. I love the shore. Sand. It's the sand and that like salt. I don't like the feeling. I never did like the feeling of it, even as a kid. There's something magical about the ocean. I love to go there. I have to get out there at least once a year, even if it's just for an hour. I just got to go and humble myself a little bit. And the best way to do that, I think, is to expose yourself to the power of Mother Nature and realize just how insignificant you are. If Matt gets in an accident, he'll have all the witnesses he wants. That's a great point. Hey, Sanani. I guess I don't need one of those dashboard cams. I have you guys. I got to Gettysburg Thursday, says Bill, and I stopped by the studio and took a picture of the sign on the door. I stayed until Sunday, and I met a lot of nice people on the battlefield. On the studio, take a picture on your social media and hashtag Addressing Gettysburg Studio. Do Addressing Gettysburg Studio. Also, I gotta let you know, if you're there and you want to stop in and see it and say hi, if it's on the weekend, chances are I'm not there, number one. And number two, that Ring doorbell that's there does not go to my office, to Eric Dorr. And every time you guys hit that, it drives him crazy. So don't hit that. I'm going to put a sign there that says this is not for Addressing Gettysburg. I'll eventually probably put my own bell there. But one of the things I love about this new studio is that I can actually get work done without drop-bys. And, because they interrupt me and they throw me off my focus, which I firmly believe that I slipped through the cracks as a kid, and I probably have had ADD my whole life, and it would explain a lot of things, actually, if that is the case. And so I would much rather sit and talk to a listener than work. I mean, who wouldn't? So when people would come by the bike shop, I wouldn't be like, oh, hey, nice, thanks for stopping by. I don't have a lot of time, I have to work. I would sit and take as much time as they wanted to take, because I'm a people person. I'm not solitudinous. I don't like solitude. I need it once in a while, and then I'll take it, but I don't like it on a regular basis. That's why if I ever had to go to prison and I was put in solitary, it would probably kill me, because I couldn't survive without people. And it's funny because it's a double-edged sword, like I can't survive without people, but then on the other hand, it's like, oh my God, nothing but people all day long. So I was back in Jersey, and brought Cindy and the dog up to meet my mom. My sister came down to my mother's house with the family, and I love seeing the kids, and it's good to be home and see everybody. It kind of, the people back home recharge me, while being back home drains me. Oh, good, vacation in a year, so it's time to relax. And I could not stay awake the whole time we were there. Like, it took everything I had to go out to Barnegat. And while we were there, I remember before I started the video, we were walking out, and I was saying to Cindy, I'm like, man, I feel like reinvigorated just breathing in this air. And she goes, I know, it's so great, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to do a video. That's why I was like in a good mood then. And I was like, I'm going to do a video and share this with everybody, because there's a Gettysburg connection. And I did that, but I was really exhausted the whole weekend. And after dinner Saturday night, they pulled out some game. I forget the name of the game, but they wanted me to play, and I was just like glued to the couch. I was like, I can't do anything. Just play without me. And they're like, don't be such a poop. And I'm like, no, I'm not being a poop. I'm exhausted. I deal with people all day, every day, all year long, and I'm exhausted. Like, sorry. And I probably took 4 naps that day, and then slept like a log through the night, and woke up for maybe a couple hours and took another nap before we left. Slept in the car 3 or 4 times. I kept falling asleep and waking up. And then when I got home yesterday, me and Major was sleeping in the car the whole time. I just took her inside and just plopped down on the couch with her, and she continued sleeping, and I fell asleep and just slept like a log for about 2 hours, and then finally woke up and felt a little better. But here's what was so funny. Cindy lives up in Camp Hill, and that's where I left my car. So I drove back from there, and I was still exhausted. But once I got 10 miles out from Gettysburg, and I always say, if I have to leave town to move, I can't go further than a 10-mile radius. And as I get closer to 10 miles, I feel not as good, but I can still feel good within those 10 miles. As I got into that 10-mile radius, with each mile closer to Gettysburg, I started feeling more energized. It's the weirdest thing. I remember I said it on the phone last night to Cindy. I go, I don't understand this. It's so weird. Like, my exhaustion started going away as I got closer to town. And she's like, well, I don't think it's weird. It makes sense for you. And I said, yeah, but have you ever heard anybody else ever say that where they are, affects their mood so much? And she goes, no, you're the first weirdo I've ever met that says that. But I understand it. And she goes, and I see you there, and I see how you thrive there, and it makes sense to me, but I've never known anybody like that. And I haven't either. And every time I explain that to people, actually, that's not true. I have met people like that, and they are you guys, Getty's nerds. We all know that feeling. We all have that feeling. And when we all come into town, for that first time in a long time, we start to sing the song, I saw you last night and got that old feeling. And we're singing it to the town of Gettysburg. I'm going to terminate my route here at Bantam Roasters, but not before we go through Culp's Hill. So we're not done just yet. Kevin says, Jim, you sure you are? It's amazing. Okay. It's amazing to see how far into life those pathetic male fantasies hang on out of desperation. They're not pathetic male fantasies. We're wired this way. Cavemen were the same way if they lived past 40. Eric Houston, not sure if she is up for it, but I may know a history major that can be an intern for That's What She Said. Oh, that's right. Elizabeth is here. You know what, Eric? Tell her she's more than welcome to join the team if she wants to, since we already know her. And she seems to be a pretty sane kid. She's more than welcome to join us, and That's What She Said would be great. In fact, I was talking to Debbie Jones the other day. Debbie Jones, of course, if you listen to AG Today, she's our show's Googler. And when Colby's not there, she runs cameras for him. And I said to her last time, I said, Debbie, I was thinking after our last conversation, which in that conversation we were talking about just all the stuff that goes into putting a show on, and how people, I'm reluctant to take volunteers because every time you do, if they're not showbiz type people, they don't understand how it all works, and they don't understand the amount of hard work and detail and all the stuff you need to think about goes into it. And they often get frustrated and then throw up their hands and leave. And then, of course, you're the asshole, even though that's just the nature of the beast. But they don't know that, And so we were talking about a situation like that. And she goes, I know exactly how hard it is because I was a theater major, and there's a lot that goes into putting on a show, and most people don't understand that. And so that got me thinking, and I said, Debbie, would you like to be the producer for AG Today? And she's like, well, what does that mean? And I told her, and she's like, yeah, I would like to do that. And I said, okay, cool. And I said, if you wanted to also, I'm looking for someone to help with That's What She Said, because ultimately what I would like That's What She Said to be is, all chicks. Without, like maybe the only thing that I would do is because I have the key to the building and we don't have others, so I would have to be there to let them in. So I would probably just be there in case anything goes wrong. But as far as production of the show goes, content, booking guests and everything, I would like that to be all female. And so yeah, Eric, if Elizabeth is interested, pardon me, we could definitely find a spot for her. And we record that show on Sundays, so that shouldn't interfere with any schoolwork or classes. Patrick says, Tim Smith, man of the people and defender of Jenny Wade. Marie says, great, I had a great weekend in Gettysburg this past weekend. Good. Jim says, hey Kevin, not desperate here, just a joke. Okay, all right. Okay, all right, now Jim, come on now. What is that? I'm sure he was, I don't know, because I haven't gotten this far ahead in the comments, but I'm sure that Kevin was saying pathetic male fantasies because he is speaking for himself as well. It was self-deprecating. That's my guess. And just let's not do that with each other, please. Thank you. Okay, I'll swing by and hit the buzzer, drive by door like crazy. All right, great. That'll get me kicked out. Did you happen to send the part where you said, and here's the plum run courtesy of the Beavers to Super... No, I did not. But I'm sure someone from the park has watched it. I know that they do. So... Paul agrees. As you get closer to town, you get the second wind. Hey, Sinene says, if any of you all come across any YouTube shorts of addressing Gettysburg, make sure you hit the like and comment. That'll boost the audience exposure. There's a ton of them up there now. Oh, are there? Awesome. Yeah, thank you for those of you who have taken my, or I guess honored my request last week to start, doing shorts of your favorite bits from different shows and putting them on your social media. I've seen a few of them out there, and I appreciate it tremendously. That's a huge help. And honestly, I think, I know I still have to do them and have them be native to our account, but I still believe that you guys doing them helps more. Because you're not us, you're listeners. And so it's like, this is what the listener like. And people will see that it's not the addressing Gettysburg count. Which by the way, I've watched I've seen clips of popular YouTube shows on accounts that are not theirs. Now it might be their employees' private accounts. I'm sure that's probably what it is. But I'm sure there's also somebody who just loves that show and they started their own account that just plays their favorite moments from whatever show it is that they're a fan of. So certainly we would welcome and assist anyone who wanted to do something like that. Like if you started a addressing Gettysburg Clips show or something, or a channel or something like that. Actually, don't use that because I think I already reserved that. Or it might be, I forget what I called it because I did it years ago just to sit on, to eventually expand into a second one, but something like that. No. Jennifer, I was not a theater major. The person I was talking to, Debbie Jones, was a theater major. No, I was more of a musician than a theater person. Theater people were a different breed. Although we all hung around, like we're all the artsy kids, so rejected by all the cool kids. So we all kind of, Eric says she's loving it there so far. I will talk to her and see if she's up for it. Yeah. And then you have my number. Just give her my number. Tell her to text or call. I'll probably call text because they don't call these youngsters. But text me, and then we can. What we'll do is when we book a guest for That's What She Said, we'll include her. We'll use her email address and include her in the invitations. Kevin says, yes, it was self-deprecating, Matt. Basically a joke stated long ago. Jim missed that and took it per which, of course, I don't partake of that kind of squabbling. Thanks for understanding. I understand. I am a comedic genius, as many people have pointed out. So I totally understood where you were going with that. And also, self-deprecating humor is my favorite. Beavers are changing the landscape down here at Yorktown as well. Pretty swift running creek. There's now dammed up swamp that looks like the Louisiana Bayou. Well, there you go. That sounds beautiful. Yeah, I wonder if, I heard a conspiracy theory that the Park Service is all about environmentalism now and history be damned, and they're actually infesting purposefully many historic parks with beavers to destroy the historic landscape and then blame it on nature and say, well, we can't do anything because it's nature. Now, do I believe that? No, of course not, ladies and gentlemen. Our government doesn't do things like that, okay? So what's going on in Maui lately? Anything new out there? Anybody in Hawaii listening right now? Can you give us an update on Maui? You were rejected in high school for being artsy, but now you're the cool one. No, I wasn't rejected in high school for being artsy. People liked me. It was the people who were like, so there's artistic people and there's artsy people. Or there's creative people and there's artsy people. Artsy people are like, they're a little bit on the spectrum, right? They're very talented, very creative, but have no interpersonal skills or social graces or anything like that. But they're fantastic at what they do. Artistic people can kind of have a foot in both worlds. These are my definitions. I don't know if this is what everybody else agrees are the definitions of these words. But to me, an artistic person is someone, let's go to East Cavalry Field. Okay, so they're going the wrong way. Now, I'm not going to say anything because it is safer, but they are going the wrong way. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so like artistic people. I would say I'm more artistic. Like I can function in the world. I can get along with the jocks. I can get along with the nerds. It doesn't mean they all like me, but I can get along with them, and I can navigate in those groups and understand their mindsets and stuff. But I can also be really like creative and really obsessed with something. Then I become more like an artsy person. But yeah, there's a big difference. The artsy people, they're always the outcasts. I mean, I knew this kid on the football team. He was an excellent trumpet player. I mean, played it beautifully. And I couldn't reconcile that because my experience, as a kid, from pop culture and also just what I could see was that, jocks were like one-dimensional people. It's just like, football. Hey, Tommy, how are you today? Football. Oh, good. That's good, Tommy. What'd you get for Christmas? Football. And that was it. So I was just like blown away by this guy because he was a pretty good football player. So I hear. I couldn't tell you what a good football player makes, but he was an excellent trumpet player. I mean, really good, and I wish he had stuck with that because I would have loved to have seen him gone on and really kicked ass with that stuff. But for the most part, I was right. Everybody was one-dimensional. Cheerleaders were vapid, football players were dopey. And that's why it was easy to get along with everybody, because once you realize how people are, it's birds of a feather flock together, Once you realize how people are and you figure out the mindset, it's easy to navigate your way into and around those groups of people. And so I wasn't rejected by people in high school. I was rejected by women, but I wasn't rejected by whole groups of people. Maui, another interesting sad mess. Does make you wonder. Oh, I'm beyond wondering. I'm convinced, I don't know of what, but I'm convinced something fishy is going on there. It is just such a sad, aggravating, and anger-inducing thing to watch. And the worst part is you're not getting it off the news. You have to find YouTube channels that are people from Maui who have been reporting on things, and that's where you're getting the real story. I don't watch these press conferences with the chief of police. I don't watch the mayor or this, all these people that are suddenly resigning. Because they're all liars. I don't know what the truth is. I just know they're not telling it. And it makes me angry. These poor people, everything. And then the government is doing things to make it difficult for them to rebuild. How do you not believe a conspiracy theory when, actually we're going to take 30 out there. How do you not believe a conspiracy theory when you see things that the government's doing that's making it difficult for people to rebuild their homes? It's as if they're basically saying, oh, everything's destroyed, it's not yours now. Where is that the rule? I feel very bad for the people of Maui. And by extension, the American people. I understand the difference between artiste and artsy now, man. Yeah, I can't stand artistes or artsy people. Unless they've learned how to at least pretend to navigate the real world.
All right, so we're going to go out to East Cavalry Field for a little drive through there, and then I'm going to head back into town and do my Bantam Roasters coffee stop.
As always, ladies and gentlemen, this is brought to you by our patrons over at patreon.com/addressing Gettysburg. Become one today and learn what it's like to be one of the cool kids. And then also, super likes right here. Hey, Matt, here's $20 towards your tank of gas for taking us on this awesome ride. Oh, thanks. Viewer, that's very kind of you. I appreciate it because gas ain't cheap.
Oh, you're welcome, Matt. I really appreciate you doing this because I'm sitting in my cubicle now, bored out of my mind, and you're making it interesting.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It is nice to see someone appreciate something. It is, truly. And that's how these are brought to you, okay? Did you hear the new commercial for Billy Webster's album Marching Through Georgia on today's release? That's what she said. No, sorry. Things that make you go, part 2. Connor Sperry says, be a patron or be square. While it doesn't rhyme, you're absolutely right. Marie says, high school sucked for me. I'm sorry to hear that. High school was actually the last time I enjoyed life until I moved back here in 2018. Briefly, I briefly enjoyed life between 2005 and say 2009 or 10 when I lived here the first time. But all those years in between, high school, then and now, I did not particularly enjoy. High school was easy for me to make myself what I wanted to be. But after that was very hard. It's hard to navigate, it's easy to navigate within a captive audience of, what was my class, 280 students? That was my class, and then the school was about 1,000. So, that's easy because it's a captive audience. You see these people every day in the hallway, you see them in class, it's easy to wear them down. The general public, very hard because there's millions of them. And if they can't stand you, they can just stop watching. When you're sitting next to somebody in class, you're going to bug them till they love you. And that's what I did in high school. So it wasn't really a love. It was more like, okay, I'm just going to give in and pretend I love this guy just to shut him the F up. And I was fully aware of that and totally fine with it. Dogface says, yeah, Maui is a tragic event showing how the current admin doesn't care about Americans. I can't disagree with you on that. But it also just shows the incompetence of our government. I think we've had it too good in this country for too many decades now, where voters have been voting in people with touchy-feely messages that at the end of the day are bullshit. And the bottom line is, we need people in charge who know how to do the government's job that is what is actually the government's job. The government's job is not to equalize the wrongs of the past. The government's job is to make sure they don't happen again. The government's job is to rescue people in an emergency. I just am appalled that that's happening here in this country. That look, what it reminds me is how we treated the Native Americans in the 19th century during the Indian Wars, and prior to that. You want the land? Well, you just go in and burn the village and just kill everybody. I'm not saying that's what. If Oprah and Mark Zuckerberg and all these people start moving in there and building shit, then you know what was going on. If they're allowed, if the people who own the property as it is today are allowed to get help doing it, then we know, okay, it was incompetence, it wasn't malice. But right now, for me, the jury's out, and I've learned the way things go now, I just learned not to rush to judgment on anything, because everything that they tell you, 2 years later, they tell you, yeah, we were wrong. And when we called you crazy, you were right, but we're not going to admit that, and we're not going to apologize, and we're not going to stop doing what we do. We're just going to double down on it and thumb our noses at you when we tell you, you were right all along, but who cares? Okay, now, we took Route 30 to Cavalry Field Road, and now we are going on to East Cavalry Field. I think this was an old farm lane, and I think if you were able to continue straight here, this is the original bed of the old farm lane. So we're on the Confederate side of the field. Ty says, we elect people on slogans and memes now, Matt. Seriously, 50-year-old people are influenced by memes on the internet. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. And, people say, oh, well, the young kids are so stupid now because we don't teach them how to think critically. Ty, you just made a good point. 50-year-olds fall for memes. That's why, social media in general, everything you see is based on studies. So there's a reason why most commercials are geared towards women. And that reason came from studies. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because you'll think I'm the bad person for just saying what they found. But you can look into it and find out what studies have shown about advertising and why they gear it towards women. And then, social media, it's all there. It's all about behavior. You notice how social media has changed over the years. It used to be very organic and very real, and they let nature take its course. And then they realized, okay, well, here's the nature of different users. So now there's a way we can manipulate that to make money and to do things, and not only to make money, but to control and shape thought. And now they're at the point of policing thought. It's like, for those of us who didn't fall for it, who have the stronger minds, now we have to be silenced because they've got enough of the weak-minded people, but they got to make sure that we're all gone. And since at this point we're not at the point of rounding people up and killing them yet, the easiest way to do it, the least vile way of doing it, is to just silence speech. And that's what they're doing now. But that won't work for very long. And so, anyway, the best thing to do is disengage from social media, except when it comes to addressing Gettysburg, of course. But I never go on social media anymore. And I decided that there's two things I need to focus on. Three things: Patreon, the free feed, and YouTube, because those are where I can make my living. I can't make a living off of Facebook. I can't make a living off of Instagram directly. That's all indirect. And Facebook and Instagram play so many tricks with creators and businesses that you basically have to pay in order to be seen, which I'm fine with, but my bank account's not fine with that. I mean, it's stuff that I could write off more, but I also kind of need liquid money because everything is more expensive now. I went to the grocery store yesterday. I bought 5 things. Somehow that was $100. And it wasn't anything, I wasn't buying anything outlandish. It's just everything is $20. Peanut butter is $20. I mean, I'm exaggerating there, but still, it's just everything is so damn expensive. And so, you gotta have that liquid moolah available. So, YouTube, Patreon, free feed. That's where I'm focusing things. My friend Donnie, who had American Civil War IG on Instagram. Over the years since I've known him, he would go through periods of going on a blackout. He would hide his account for a while, and finally he deleted it a month or two ago. And I texted him. I was like, "Are you taking another break from Instagram?" And he's like, "No, I'm done." And I said, "Why are you done?" And he goes, "Well, it's aggravating, number one." He goes, "I put it out. I started it because I would find stories of the Civil War that I found interesting and I would share them. And then I started having to deal with these idiot lost causers who give me a hard time because I don't do enough Confederate stuff." And he's like, "I'm not doing this account for you. I'm doing this for me. These are stories I find interesting." And I put plenty of Confederate stories up there. But that's not enough when you're in a cult. And when you're in a cult, everything has to be the way you see it or not at all. And so he just got sick of all that nonsense. And, it's not how he makes his living. He has a real job. He has a family. He has things that are more important. And he finally realized there's nothing, I'm getting nothing out of this. There's no point in me doing this. And it's a shame because he had really good stories and really good, he had a really good way of doing things. I just loved his account. A lot of people did, but it was just too much for him. And I was like, you know what? I envy you. I don't blame you. I would totally do the same thing if I were in your shot as far as social media goes. Because it's you can't win for losing sometimes. I had a comment. What was it? Someone left a comment the other day. Oh God, I can't remember But it was like just this, first of all, not one period or comma. And it was lost cause insanity. And I honestly, I wonder if these people are real. Because they're all caricatures of what we see a lost causer being. I just have such a hard time believing that people genuinely believe this shit. Now, I know that there are some real backwards people out there in the world. I know there are. I've met them many times in my life. But typically those people don't even go near social media. Because the one thing they're smart about is knowing, don't leave such a fingerprint. They know. They hear one story about how, government uses social media to spy on us, and they're like, that's it, I ain't doing it. And they're right, and they're smart. They're smarter than us in that regard. But then there's the worldview on, the Confederacy. It's like, are you nuts? What is with you? Now, that said, I'm not one of these people that believes the story of the South shouldn't be told. I believe it should be told. I believe all of history should be told, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And to tell the story of the Confederacy, or of Nazi Germany, or fascist Italy, or Soviet, or the modern day Chinese, like that does not mean you're endorsing them. And I think the very stupid among us see things that way. And no, I shouldn't say the very stupid among us. It's an entire generation, and they've been brainwashed to think that way. They really have. I know people in the education system, and that's exactly what's been going on. They're not taught to think critically purposefully. And it's simple. If you want people to just do what you say, you don't teach them how to think critically, because they can't. They'll just have no other choice but to trust you, the authority in the white robe, or the authority in the collar, or whatever. And that's why you have to keep people stupid. And I guess it works for, I don't know, I'm rambling now. I don't even know where I started this whole thing. It's tough when you don't have someone to speak to, and you just kind of go stream of consciousness and stuff. But it's also very therapeutic. I suggest you try it. Even if nobody watches, you can all go live on your YouTube. You should do it one day. Just go live and just talk about whatever's on your mind. You'll be like, oh man, that felt good. And then you'll go, nah, I should probably delete it. All right, so we're gonna turn here on Benner's Hill. Be very careful when you're coming to Benner's Hill, because there's a blind spot. So stop there before you make your left, because it looks like no one's coming, but that's when someone can sneak up and smash you. So be very careful. All right, and then we're gonna turn around here, and then I'll read your comments from when I was driving. Oh God. If you ever want to go out on the battlefield and read, let's say you want to read about whatever, doesn't matter, but you want to read something about the battle, and you want to do it on the battlefield, but you don't want to be bothered by people, this is the place to go. Very few people know about it. Those that do know about it, very few of them actually come up here. So I would highly recommend using this as a place to, whatever. All right, let's get into this here. What are you guys saying? Hey, Sanana, we have a mental health crisis in this country, and it affects the common voter. Yes, that is true, we do. It affects everything. Can't wait to listen to the latest Patreon episode on alcohol and the Civil War. I feel it necessary to do so with whiskey in hand, only to probably be proven an alcoholic. Well, I can't comment on that because I don't remember what we talked about, but I do remember finding it interesting. you know, like the culture back then was so different than today. The way Americans thought about being an American, the way Americans thought about America, back then it was still in the potential phase. Like, you know, people were excited about what America could potentially become. And so it was all new, and it was all, you know, everything that we take for granted today either didn't exist then or was in its early stages. And there were many things that were in existence that are no longer in existence today, just because that's the way things change. So it's very interesting to see what people's attitudes towards alcohol were back then. Kevin says, our national politics has become a huge spectator sport. Pick a team and root for it no matter what. Yeah, exactly. And that's very unhealthy. And that's why I left my team. First of all, that's why I never really got into sports, because I never understood. Like, my family were Giants fans, New York Giants. Why? Like, my dad, I remember saying to my dad, I was like, you know, when you were a kid and you got into the Giants, all the players that you loved, they're not on the team anymore. So really, you're just rooting for a uniform and the memories attached to it. But there's nothing like, now you could say the same thing. Well, okay, well, what about the United States versus any of its enemies? Yeah, but no. And so I never understood people that would get into like big fights about sports. Their team, you know, two best friends, and they like opposite teams, and they would just, you know, yell at each other about the teams and statistics, and this player's better than that player. And I'm like, meanwhile, you guys are sitting here with a bowl of chips and dip on your bellies and a beer in your hand, and you're arguing about the athletic prowess of other people. Like, am I the only one that finds this pathetic? And I think the answer is yes, I am the only one that finds that pathetic, because no one agrees with me on that one. Alex D. Jesus says, I love what you're saying. Hey, how's Oliver Anthony holding up? I'm in Las Vegas area. Great political and class struggle. Oliver Anthony. Why does that name sound familiar? Is that the police chief? Wait, Oliver Anthony. Refresh me on that, please, Alex. Marie, oh man, I'm 52. Well, don't fall for the memes, Marie. Kevin, Marie, you're still in your prime at 52. You know, I have to say, 50 is the new 25. Before I met Cindy, I was on one of those dating apps, and I had originally had my age range from like 28 to 38 because I wanted to have a kid. And then I was like, all right, that's not happening. I could barely relate to a 38-year-old now. There's no way I'm relating to a 30-year-old or a 28-year-old. And there's no way they'll relate to me. And the only way they'll want me is if they have daddy issues, and that's not good. So I have to give up on wanting a kid and just look for a good companion. So then my age range changed from 35 to 45. And now you might be saying, well, wait, what's the difference between 35 now and 35 before, when your age was 28 to 38? Well, the difference is I'm looking for a companion, not a mother of my child. And there's a huge difference in that. I'm very picky when it comes to who would be the mother of my children. That's why I don't have children. And the sad thing is, well, whatever. So then I changed it to 35 to 55. And the women that were older in their 50s have it much more together than the younger women. And I found them to be far more attractive than the younger women. There is something about a mature woman, and mature women could be at any age, but a woman who's just got her act together and has her head on straight and doesn't sweat the small things. That's why Cindy is so great. Like, her friend told her, she was telling her friend, you know, Matt keeps saying, like, I'm so different. I'm so, you know, I'm not like the other ones, and I don't know what he's talking about. And her friend's like, I'll tell you what he's talking about. And she's like, what? And he's like, her friend's like, you're not emotional. You're a logical person. You don't get worked up over things. And she's like, I'm emotional. I get worked up over things. And that's why my relationships never work. And then Cindy's like, well, I guess, I don't know. Like, I'm just me. And I'm like, yeah, whatever you are, I don't care if you're logical, emotional, whatever. Just, you are the way you are, and you're great, and that's it. But it took 45 years to find that. And that is a sad commentary on the population out there. Why did I get into that one now? Back in high school, I had a minimum wage job as a dishwasher, says Bill. The girlfriend would get into the trunk of my 74 Chevy Monte Carlo to sneak her into the drive-in to save me a buck or two. Good times. Yeah. And then when you got home and let her out of the trunk, would you tell her about the movie? Marie says, I'm doomed now. Why are you doomed? Kevin says, I prefer Mark Twain's political view. He said, I refuse to vote for politicians that only encourages them. Yeah. I never heard that one. That's a good one. Marie, you're not doomed unless you choose to be. There you go. I never signed on to a team, Matt, and I do not watch professional sports. Because you were smart, Kevin. Alex says, Oliver Anthony, Richmond North. Oh, that guy. Yeah, okay. What about... No, wait. Hold on. So what about him? I love what you're saying. Hey, how's... Oh, right. Yeah, they're trying to destroy him. And you know what's funny is they're trying to destroy him, yet a lot of what he's saying a very short time ago were positions of the left. And everything is switched now. And I just find it very curious how everything is going. It is weird. They hate that someone who no one had ever heard of, who is not supported by a record company that is on their team, can make such a splash like Oliver Anthony did with a song. Because truth always wins, ladies and gentlemen, and life always finds a way. So you can have these evil people in our media, in our government, everywhere, try to clamp down on your existence and your joy, but you will always find a way to live your life. And that's why they always fail in the end. They always fail in the end. Looking forward to the alcohol episode. One of my favorite things you did was the top 10 list of drunkenness in the Civil War. Oh, yeah, that's right. Beastly drunk is maybe the most memorable thing from the podcast. Great talks on these rides. Great talks on the great battlefield. Thank you, Wade. Kevin, have you checked out your YouTuber Wonder Hussy yet, Matt? Now there's a mature woman who got her act together. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, have you checked out YouTuber Wonder? Gotcha. No, I don't really. Honestly, if I'm watching YouTube, like now I've found people on Maui who are, showing us what's going on Maui. So I've followed them. But typically when there's no big thing in the news going on, I follow people who do, like Joe Rogan, for example. Like, he's not on YouTube anymore, but I'll listen to him because he's better than I am at what he does. So I'm trying to learn from him. But also he has very interesting people on. And the thing I like about Joe Rogan is he says that he's a liberal, but he'll listen to a conservative. He'll have a conservative on, and he'll have a communist on, and he'll have I don't think he's had a Nazi on, but I'm sure he would. He listens to everybody, even if he disagrees with them, and they don't necessarily change his mind, but he is a fair-minded person, and I think any interviewer should be. You should be the most curious person in your audience if you're an interviewer. You should be more curious than your audience. because that'll make for a great interview. So I like to listen to people like him. Of course, Howard Stern, just for the laughs. But old Howard Stern. The new Howard Stern is a snooze. Luckily, old Howard is out there, as much as he tries to hide it. And what else do I listen to? Oh, Rick Beato. So he's a music channel. Very good. I love Rick Beato stuff. Oh God, there's a bunch. Oh, Kevin Hill. He's an oil painter, but I like his evolution. If you look and see his early videos from over a decade ago, I think he it was basically just doing Bob Ross. Like, there was really no difference between him and Bob Ross. I don't know what happened along the way. He might have taken some classes with a different type of artist or something, but he really got good. I mean, really good. And now it doesn't look like a Bob Ross painting at all. And so I really like him, because I started copying Bob Ross, but I got sick of that. So I needed something else. I needed someone else to teach me a new method. And his method kind of spoke to me, because I guess we came from the same school. But yeah, I don't know who Wonder Hussy is, and I'm just guessing from Hussy. I'm not really going to be into it. He actually complained that Republicans were using the song at the GOP debate. He said they were the people he was singing about. Oh, he did. So the left-wing media and politicians are trying to destroy him, and the right gloms onto it, but he says the right is who he was. So he's just as dumb as everybody else, because really he should be speaking about all of them. Or is that what he's saying? Is I was talking about Republicans and Democrats? Because then I would believe he's, got his head on straight. But if he's just talking about one and not the other, then he's just as dumb as everybody else. I need to find my old car, because I can't remember if I ever let her out. Okay, so so what is his perspective, though, Ty and Alex? Is he saying, I don't know why the Republicans are using it because I'm talking about them too? Or is he saying, I don't know why the Republicans are using it because this song is all about them? Because there's a difference there. I think he's right if he's saying they're included in that criticism. Don't let her YouTube ID fool you, Matt. Wonder Hussy is a terrific podcaster. All right, I'll look into her. I really don't have much time to be worrying about other podcasters, because I'm trying to make mine into something, but I'll give her a look. And then Audible. I spend a lot of time listening to Audible. I've been listening to Case Closed by Gerald Posner on and off for the last month, because we are going to do an episode. It's the 60th anniversary of the JFK assassination. I always find it convenient that happened in 1963, because it's easy for me to remember which anniversary we're on based on Gettysburg's, and just subtract 100 years. So we're coming up on the 60th anniversary of the JFK assassination. That is amazing. I was born just before the 20th anniversary of the assassination. And yeah. All right, let's make our way back into town. Seems that the commenting has slowed down, so we're gonna make our way back into town and stop at Bantam Roasters. I think more general. I always thought the song leaned left a lot about wage disparity. Yeah, see, I thought he was right in the middle. It's interesting how everybody has a different perspective on him. I thought he was right in the middle because he said things that were that I've heard as talking points on both sides. He has a thing about welfare, you know, being on welfare but being 300 pounds. That's definitely something the right is more upset about, although I don't know why everybody should be upset about that. And then, you know, about wealth disparity, that's more of a left thing. But I'm hearing more people on the right talking about that because it's the same thing, but it's different words. So like the right, I hear, talks more about the erosion of the middle class. And that, of course, creates this wage gap, this wealth gap or whatever that the left is always bitching about. But the left is always bitching about that because they want everybody to be poor. They don't want any rich people except for them, and then they want you. So like the erosion of the middle class is a good thing to the left because they want everybody to be, they want it to be poor and the rich ruling elite. The right knows that if the country's going to be strong and survive, you have to have a robust middle class. So they're both against the disparity, sort of, but it's just different words and for different reasons and different solutions that they offer. So I don't know. I think I took him to be a guy who is like me, who is sick and tired of both parties, both philosophical camps, wants both of them to go F themselves and leave us all alone and let us make our way and figure things out ourselves. We don't need your help. You know where we need your help? When our entire town burns down. That's when we need your help, government. We don't need your help on everyday little things. And I took him to be a guy who's fed up with the whole system. So you're going to hear anti-right, you're going to hear anti-left because left and right make up the system. Left and right have effed up the system. Left and right continue to F up the system, and they continue to blame each other when really the only people that we have to blame are the voters who put them in constantly on every level. They complain, oh, this goes, oh, crime is up. Let's keep voting the same people in. Okay, so it's never going to get better. So, yeah, it's funny. I think that's the genius of his song, and that's why it's so popular, is that everybody hears their philosophy in it. That's pretty brilliant. That's good songwriting. If I'm a guy who has had it with both parties and has no use for either one and thinks all of them should be rounded up and put in jail for treason, right? That's a little extreme, but I'm an extreme moderate. I'm coming from the middle. They have ruined it for all of us. And if I can hear his song and be like, oh, this guy's with me, but then, I forget who said it, Ty, I think, you hear it and you think he's leaning left, and then people on the left hear it and think he's leaning right. I maybe that's kind of brilliant because everybody's listening to it, if only to hate it, but they want to know why they hate it, so they listen to it at least once. It's pretty damn smart. But it's a good song. He's got a good voice. Good for him. Good for him. So I'll read your comments before I end the video once I pull into Bantam Roasters. And I'm just reminded that I forgot to send them an invoice for the second week in a row for advertising on the show. Oh, come on, lottery ticket. All right. Well, I didn't realize how crooked that was. All right, let's see. After the last morning drive, I spent the rest of the day listening to your narrative on Antietam to Gettysburg. Very good. You know, Marie, thank you for that. We listened to it on the way home from New Jersey yesterday because Cindy's got a Range Rover, and I was like, hey, can we listen to this? Because I've always wanted to hear it on really good car speakers. So we listened to it, and I would just wanted to skip around to get to certain parts, mainly the battles. And the first time I went to skip, she was like, wait, what are you doing? And I said, well, I just wanted to hear certain parts. She's like, no, I want to listen to it. So we listened to it, and then she actually continued listening to it because it didn't take up our whole trip. I'm sorry, it was longer than our trip. So our trip didn't take up you know what I mean. And so she continued listening to it last night after she got home, and she texted me this morning, and she said that she really liked it, which is nice and refreshing and unusual. So, yes, thank you for listening to that. Thank you. Kevin says, yes, Matt, I have listened to Posner on Audible too. I'm an avid and longtime Audible subscriber. Have about 700 titles. Oh my God. I don't know how many I have, but I know I haven't, just like many of the books I have in my libraries, I know I haven't actually listened to even a 10th of the ones that I have. Alex says, I meant song, not dong. Wait, what did you say, Alex? I missed dong. Where is that? I don't see it. Anyway. Russell, yes, Matt, that's how I took the song. Listened to it 4 times back to back. Yes, sick of both sides. Ty says, grew up in Appalachia in a pretty poor area. They'll elect the same people for decades and then vote for their children if they run. Then they'll blame the state for all their troubles. Yeah, well, that's the thing is, you know, we have this right to vote in this country. I sometimes wonder why. We didn't always, at least for the presidential election. And I just wish it seems like there was a 5-minute period of history in our country where we actually wanted an educated public and an informed electorate. And we don't want that anymore. And it's so disheartening. Like, I just, you know, like someone who lives in another country, if that country starts going to hell, I'm sure in the back of their mind, if they don't like the hell that country's going to, in the back of their mind, they always have, well, maybe we can find a way to make it to America. But I feel like a guy who has nowhere on the planet to go to. I don't have that, well, maybe if things go bad here, I can move to, because I can't. I don't want to. No other country has anything that I find would be better. So that means I got to live through whatever hell the stupid electorate has imposed upon me. And I resent that a lot. And I remember, I have a memory, folks. And I know who was for it and who was not. And it's just sad to me. My grandfather always used to say, it's a beautiful country. It's the people that are the problem. And I think he's right. Bill says, school starts here tomorrow and I drive a school bus. Pray for me. I do. Dude, Bill, you and teachers, anybody that has to deal with these little monsters, I don't know how you do it. And if it's just because it's the only job you can find, I hope you can find something else that pays just as good or better and get out of it if it's really that much of a nightmare, because they're monsters, man. I hope that I'm wrong. Like, I hope all the videos that you see of these out of control kids are the outliers that just get all the attention. But I know a lot of people that are educators, and And it's not, from what they're telling me. And that's what's so frightening. It's terrifying. Northmen north of Richmond. Gotta admit, I thought it was lost cause at first. Well, that's what the left media is trying to portray it as, is that he's it's like a racist Southern. I don't know. I thought it was Richmond north of Richmond. Ty, do you watch the Appalachian Channel? There's an Appalachian Channel? Ty, hastening. That's why I think a lot of the South jumped on it too. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's probably a good deal of that. All right. I got to get some coffee and get to work here. So you guys have yourselves a great day. 1 o'clock, 1:30-ish, somewhere around there, we're going to interview Jonathan Lucci, the author of the new novel, The Heavens Falling. And let me tell you something. Cindy started reading it on Thursday, and she loves it. And she's like, this guy is a really good writer. And I read a little bit of it on the drive, and he really is. Very, very, very good writer. And so we had dinner with him a couple of weeks ago, him and his wife, Michelle. They're very sweet people, and they're out of Winchester. I think you're going to enjoy listening to our conversation. I don't know what we're going to talk about exactly. We're going to talk about the book, of course. But so it's another author interview. It is a novel. So, it's based in history. And we did talk a little bit about at dinner about, how to write a novel that's based in history. And you still have to get the history somewhat right and take license here and there. But so we'll be talking about that. So that will be live streamed on YouTube for free for now, until that becomes a permanent feature for our $25 members over on Patreon. So get it while it's hot. I hope you guys have a great day. Talk to you later and during the interview. And yeah, that's it. Talk to you later. You're welcome, Alex. Thank you for listening. I don't recognize your name, so I take it you're new, or you're a new commenter. So thank you very much for joining us. The rest of you guys have a great day. Thanks for the robust discussion, and we'll talk to you later.